Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
True Crime Edition. All right, I've got one real-time true crime. Local to me, but very interesting. So, a Memphis DJ named Rick Buchanan, who uses the DJ name Slick Rick, not the rapper Slick Rick. A neighbor of his called his brother and said he was worried about Rick. So his brother, John, came over. He said the front door was locked. So he was like, okay, I don't know. He seems fine to me. He went around the back, and the back door was slightly open. So he went inside and he saw Rick laying on the floor. His pants were pulled down to his feet. His keys were still in his hand, as if he had just come home. And John said he was confused because there was a coat over his head. He walked out of the room, or of the house, and he came back in, and he got closer and he realized there was not a coat over his head. His head was missing.
So what was there?
Nothing. He did not see his head, so he was like, oh, his head is
Something's
covered.
covering it.
Right.
Okay.
So a murder investigation has begun.
Is his head there?
No.
It's missing.
They took it. They found his headless body in his home. So I don't think his head was there.
Oof.
Yeah. Scary. So we'll see. It did say also that he had been shot in 2014, but they have no reason to believe that that is connected to his murder. But that's all the real-time true crime I have.
Ooh.
I know. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about things like that.
Mm-mm.
People talk shit on Memphis all the time, but we don't hear those kinds of murders.
It's usually a little more straightforward.
Yeah, it's not like that. All right, so we'll get into the case now. No murders here. I do have a content warning for sexual assault. This is a case of a serial rapist. So no murders, but heavy on the sexual assault. So if that is not your journey today, feel free to come back next week when Katie talks about children again.
And murder.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. At around 7 a.m. on August 11th, 2008, an 18-year-old woman known as Marie was asleep in the home she had moved into at the Alderbrooke Apartments after aging out of foster care, when someone opened the unlocked sliding door to her apartment. Unbeknownst to Marie, this intruder had already broken into her apartment twice before to familiarize himself with the layout of her home.
It's like Jennifer Kessie. It's giving... I don't like it.
It's good. Once inside, the intruder took the laces out of a pair of Marie's shoes, as well as a knife from her kitchen, and crept into her bedroom.
Okay.
He bound
I thought
Marie.
You meant like he took them like at one of the other times.
No.
And I was like, what a weird souvenir. Or is he just trying to like spook her? But okay, I see.
He bound Marie's wrists with her shoelaces, blindfolded her, and gagged her with a cloth. He then whispered to Marie that he had waited outside for hours for her to get off of a phone call, and then he scolded her for leaving her door unlocked. The intruder...
Hey, buddy, if you want to go, I promise I'll lock it behind you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. The intruder raped Marie, and afterward, he placed her ID on her chest and took photos of her, threatening to post them if she told anyone.
Oh, I see.
Before he left, he made Marie shower to wash away any evidence. Despite,
Interesting.
mhm,
Like, I get it that, like, he blindfolded her and, like, he's taking the steps,
mhm,
but it's just, like, so strange to me to spend so much time with a victim and not kill them.
yeah.
And, like, I get it, like, that's a higher crime.
Mm.
Carries a little more of a sentence.
Some people aren't ready for that step.
Yeah, and that's fine. But it just, like, you don't hear that much, like, just spending hours with someone and taking photographic evidence
Mhm.
of your fucking crimes.
Despite the threats of sextortion, Marie immediately went to the police in Linwood, Washington, where she met with Sergeant Jeffrey Mason and Jerry Ritgarn. Police began investigating right away. They searched the apartment complex for clues and took in as much as they could. Marie gave them as many details as she could remember, but in all of the times they interviewed her, her story began to change. While this was more than likely brought on by the trauma of a rape, specifically one where Marie could not actually see what was going on around her, detectives quickly decided that she was making her story up. Having bounced around to all different kinds of foster homes, Marie had unfortunately experienced several abusive homes and was now living in subsidized housing as she transitioned into adulthood. This difficult past, coupled with Marie's seeming lack of emotion, caused those around her to doubt her story. Her former foster mother, Peggy, pointed out that Marie described a violent crime like something straight out of Law and Order, but she was acting completely normal after the fact. Marie would later say they bullied her and hounded her until she recanted. Sergeant Mason and Rick Garn explained to Marie that if they were to put her under a polygraph test and she didn't pass, that she would lose her transitional housing for breaking the law.
No. No, no. Someone wanna
Yeah,
tell her that is not how that works. Failing
they
a
present
polygraph is not a crime.
right.
Um,
I think they were saying like if you're lying, that's the crime.
right, if
But like,
you're making false
right. So
statements
if
or
we
whatever,
can prove that you're lying,
which you can't with a
yeah,
polygraph,
right.
you bozos.
They presented her with paperwork that she had to sign confirming that she had falsified her report. So she wrote a new statement claiming that it had been a dream and she had made up the story for attention and she was charged with false reporting.
What a bad dream
I know.
that would be.
In the Netflix show, based on this, she says they're like they come back in to look at the statement and they're like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't what you said. Like you said, you made it all up, and now you're saying it was a dream." And she was like, "Well, it felt real.
I have to, yeah.
I thought it was it must have been a dream that just felt very real." It was really sad to watch, but anyway, um. The investigation into Marie's rape was closed and the case against her began. She pleaded guilty to misdemeanor false reporting and entered a plea deal where she was ordered to pay $500 in court costs and attend counseling in place of serving jail time. Had her case remained open, it may have been linked to the rape of a 63-year-old woman in Kirkland, Washington, less than 30 minutes away, with the exact same MO. In fact, when Kirkland PD found out about Marie's case and the remarkable similarities between her case and theirs, they reached out to Linwood PD to discuss the possibility of it being the same predator, and Linwood stood firm in their belief that Marie was lying, regardless of the details. On October 4th, 2009, so what year was that? 2008. Okay, fast forward. On October 4th, 2009, a 65-year-old grandmother was raped in Aurora, Colorado. This woman, who is called Doris in the Netflix series about the serial rapes called Unbelievable, described her attacker as a white male in his 20s, 6 feet tall, stocky, well endowed, soft spoken, and polite, with shaven fine hair. The other thing about this case is that I can't find anyone's real names for the most part,
Oh,
so I'm going to
okay.
refer to all of them as their Netflix names,
Okay.
just to make it easier to storytell.
Yeah.
Um, Doris claimed he smelled clean and was wearing a white t-shirt, green khaki pants, gloves, a jacket, mid-thigh boxer briefs, and a black scarf wrapped around his face as a mask.
I kind of
She
hate for her to give him the credit of saying he's well endowed, but I think that's like,
no.
yeah, I was gonna say like if like that's like an additional piece to a lineup, like
Right.
if they get it like narrowed down, like yeah, like that's a nice detail. Thank you, Miss
Yeah.
Ma'am.
She's also not the only person who says that. I wonder if they asked them that as well,
Yeah,
because it was
maybe.
like
Well, and
in
they
a
may have
lot of
just
the
said,
report.
was there a notice? Like, was there anything noticeable
Yeah.
about him naked, or
Yeah.
about his genitalia, uh, and that would be noticeable.
Yeah. She was very clear that what he was wearing around his face was a scarf and not a balaclava.
What?
According, like a ski mask.
Oh,
The
okay.
ones, the ones that like only have the eye.
Yes.
It's called a
Yes. Yeah.
balaclava. According to Doris's account of the attack, the suspect broke into her home while she was sleeping and sat on her back. Then he opened a large black backpack and pulled out a flashlight, a dildo, lubricant, and a ribbon, which he loosely bound her with. He took photos of Doris during the attack and threatened to post them online if she reported the assault to police. At one point during the assault, Doris voiced that she was cold and her attacker gave her a blanket to warm herself with. When the assault ended, the perpetrator ordered Doris to shower and brush her teeth. He took her bedding, clothes, and cell phone and fled the scene of the crime. Once he was gone, Doris called the police and reported the crime to Aurora Police Detective Scott Burgess. She gave him all of the details of the crime, including descriptions of the stolen items, a solid pink fitted sheet, 2 solid pink pillowcases, a white t-shirt with purple and gold lettering, a pair of white granny panties. That's what she called them, not me.
That's a good. Yeah. Being
She's
able
a
to give
descriptive
them all
woman.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The pillowcases and everything.
Mhm. Then in July of 2010, a 46-year-old woman was attacked in Lakewood, Colorado, before jumping out of her bedroom window 7 feet off the ground, breaking 3 ribs, fracturing her vertebrae, and puncturing a lung. The Lakewood woman, referred to as Lily in the Netflix series, describes waking up to a noise in her home at around 2:33 a.m. and found a man wearing a black mask standing at her bedside with a curved knife. According to Lily's report, the man told her, "Shut up, shut the fuck up, or I'm going to hurt you." He then ordered her to lie down on her stomach and he sat on her back. He then tied her arms with what she believed was some sort of rubber cord. Lily then claimed that she called out to her spiritual advisor for help. In the Netflix series, they kind of make her like a woo-woo crazy lady. But I actually think this is like it made a difference for her. So the intruder
Like a ancestor. Like
in the Netflix series, the character who's like her mom says that she had like spent a lot of time looking for religion, and she had been like doing a lot of like spiritual retreats and stuff where she connected to a spiritual advisor. But I think it's like an actual person,
oh, so she just called out their name.
but she can also like call on them.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
how That's how they made it seem anyway.
Okay.
Um,
But also these women are like killing it. Like
yeah,
curved knife. Like I've got everything you need like
yeah,
to find this person.
yeah. Once Lily was quiet, he asked if someone else was in the home because he had heard her call out to someone. And when he went to look for the spiritual advisor she had called for, Lily jumped out of her bedroom window and landed in her yard below.
Get it,
She
girl.
ran to her next door neighbor's house
With
with
3 broken ribs?
her 3 broken ribs, her fractured vertebrae, and her punctured lung, ran to her neighbor's house and called the police.
Girlfriend.
During her interview with police, Lily admitted that she had left her garage door slightly open when she left home at around 8 p.m. the night before to head to Boulder so that her cat could go in and out of her home.
Wait, that's true. Like,
I'm sure this
you
is
do
normal
that?
for her. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
probably super normal for her. But when she returned at 10:30 p.m., the garage door had been fully closed. So she left it cracked, and 2.5 hours later, it was closed all the way. Before she went to bed around midnight, she went out to her driveway to get a bag of ice from her car. When she went back inside, she could not get her garage door to open with the remote, so she had to go in through her front door. So I think the garage door being closed all the way is odd, but then I wonder if the remote's also not working. Is she like, okay, something's up with my garage?
Right.
It's being weird. Um, she double checked that all of the doors were locked, but the door from her house to the garage would not fully close or lock. Lily
Okay.
described
But at this point, she did get the garage door itself fully closed.
the garage door was closed. She went out to her driveway where her car was, and then she tried to open the garage door and it wouldn't open. So
Okay.
she had to go back into her house through the front door.
Okay.
But her garage door is closed.
Okay.
Just the door to the house from there was open.
Okay.
Lily described her intruder as a white male in his late 20s, about 6 feet tall, with muscular shoulders, blue or green eyes, light colored eyebrows, and a swimmer's build. She believed his black mask was made of silk or satin because it appeared shiny, and it only left room for his eyes, and it ended past his neck. He had smooth skin, and she noted that the way he carried himself, and more specifically, the way he held his knife, made her believe he could be a member of the military or police force.
Okay.
When interviewed by
Very specific.
When interviewed by LPD officer Sherry Shimamoto, Lily reported that she believed that her attacker had been stalking her leading up to the break-in. For the past 2 months, she thought she felt a presence watching her from her bedroom window, and, this freaks me out, her computer had a new sign-in called Pure Evil.
Nuh-uh.
Yes. Isn't that
That's so
horrifying?
crazy. And like I
It
don't
gets worse.
understand. Why would you do that though? Like, because she could really freak out and like really buckle down and like
Yeah.
get some security or something. I don't know.
It gets worse because when she returned from the hospital after being treated for her injuries for 3 weeks, the Pure Evil sign-in was gone.
Ah!
Lily's normal sign-in was back up.
So hers was gone when the pure evil one was there.
Yeah, I think so. In addition to this, upon her return from the hospital, Lily found one of her kitchen knives stuck in the ground near the fence in her backyard. She did not realize it had gone missing, but when she checked in the kitchen drawer it was usually kept in, she confirmed that it was the knife she thought it was, and she turned it over to Lakewood PD for analysis. Another Colorado woman, this time a 59-year-old in Westminster, was raped in August of 2010. This woman, who is referred to as Sarah in the Netflix series, described her attacker as a white male, light hair, approximately 30 to 35 years old, well endowed with muscular arms. Sarah reported that the intruder threatened her with a gun, though she never saw one. He just told her he had one. He was wearing a white t-shirt, gray sweatpants with holes in the knees, and a black ski mask or watch cap. She explained that he broke into her home while she was sleeping and sat on her back. He brought some sort of zippered bag with him, which contained a dildo, wet wipes, thigh-high stockings, twine or string, lubricant, and bottles of water.
How kind.
He's planning on being there for a while, I guess.
Mm.
He loosely bound her with a twine or string and forced her to dress in the thigh-high socks and high heels before raping her. When he was finished, he made her shower and brush her teeth and fled while she was washing. This time, in addition to her green bedding, a blue and yellow floral nightgown, a used washcloth, and used wet wipes, the rapist stole a pink Sony CyberShot camera and money from a safe from his victim.
How did he get in the safe?
Well,
Well, I mean, I guess if you said, give me your code, and you got a gun, I'm going to just give you my code.
Yeah.
So,
probably. On January 5th, 2011, a 26-year-old engineering graduate student was raped as well, this time in Golden, Colorado. In the Netflix series, this woman is called Amber. Amber reported that her attacker stayed in her apartment for hours on end, raping her on and off, but during that time, she was able to learn information about him that became valuable to the investigation, like the fact that he had a brownish birthmark or tattoo on his outer calf right below the knee, about the size and shape of an egg, and that he had a clean-shaven pubic region. She described him as a white male, about 35 years old, about 6'2" and 180 pounds, chubby with a belly that protruded, she says, about the size of a 2 to 3 month pregnant belly. So he got a little, like a little pot belly, she says.
okay.
She describes him wearing a black mask that covered all of his face aside from his eyes. His eyes appeared to be hazel or light brown with green in them, and one eye appeared to be higher or larger than the other. His eyes were his eyebrows were light brown or blonde, as was the hair on his arms and legs, although he was not particularly hairy. She also noted that his lips seemed full as they protruded from the mask. So the mask only covers his eyes, but his lips are like sticking out of it. According to Amber's account, she was woken up early in the morning by a masked intruder with a silver and black handgun. He told her that if she screamed, he would shoot her. He sat on her back, and she claimed he used the F word a lot until the point where she stopped struggling. At this point, she decided to fully cooperate with his demands, fearing for her life. He told Amber that he had been stalking her since August of the previous year, watching her through her patio door, and had already broken into her apartment several times to learn about her and the layout of her home. He informed her that he knew where she went to school, what her major was, her name, her birthday, her vehicle plate number, as well as information about her roommate.
Ah.
During her attack, Amber quickly adopted a fawn response in an attempt to keep her attacker from shooting her, and asked him many questions about himself, during which he talked about his belief that the world consisted of bravos and wolves. He also talked to her about his interest in math and how he viewed it more as chaos than as logic and code. He said people in society wore masks to avoid revealing who they truly are. She asked him if he had ever been in the military, and he said, "You can say that." And then went on to tell her that he spoke multiple languages and had traveled to several different countries. He's just pouring it all out to her. He said, "I don't care if you find out who I am, I guess."
Yeah.
Then he took a pair of thigh-high stockings and high heels out of his backpack, along with lubrication, wet wipes, and bottled water. He demanded that she put on the stockings and pink heels, along with makeup, lipstick, and pigtails. He directed her into various poses and took photos of her using a pink Sony CyberShot camera. He bound her using a silk ribbon she usually used to decorate her hair, which had gone missing from her apartment about a month prior.
No. I don't
And
like
then,
any of this.
no, it's not
This
good.
is not on my journey today. I'm leaving.
But it's like the only reason this case stopped is because women.
Yeah, that's great. Can they stop it right now, though?
Yep.
Nice.
He began his assault at one point covering the bed with plastic and a towel. Afterwards, he showed her how to better secure her patio door
Thank
in
you.
order to avoid another break-in by showing her that she could put a wooden stick on the track and it wouldn't open as easily from the outside.
I guess he didn't want to come back.
He said, "I'm good now." He demanded that she shower and brush her teeth. When she was finished, he was gone and had taken all of his belongings as well as Amber's pajamas, underwear, and bed sheets. While she was showering, Amber's attacker told her that he was hiding her cell phone, and she located it under a couch cushion in her living room and immediately called her boyfriend and then the police. Stacey Galbraith, who was investigating Amber's case, spoke to a local CBS News reporter about her investigation, saying, quote, "We go in and take a look at the scene. The scene was different from most other assaults. That person is still out there. Is he going to hit again? What's he planning? What's he doing? Where is he at? I went home. The scene left me shaken," end quote.
I bet.
At each of the scenes, the women reported that their attacker wore gloves and a ski mask, made each of them shower for 20 minutes with a timer, and then took all of their clothes and bed linens with him when he fled. They all recalled that he was tall, strong, white, with light eyes, and each one heard his voice. He would comment to them about how he had managed to get into their home, noting open windows or unlocked doors. One woman told him he needed to seek help, and he responded, quote, "It's too late for that."
Yeah, and it's
And
like a weird, like, I don't know if like fatherly is the word, but this weird
mhm,
like caretaker-ness where
yeah,
he's like, and also
yeah.
like
You need to be
don't let
careful.
don't you
Yeah,
let anyone hurt you.
yeah. Keep this door locked, crazy girl.
Someone
Unfortunately,
really dangerous could be out there.
yeah, you never know. There's crazy people about. Unfortunately, while these rapes did occur near one another, they all occurred in different districts and were being investigated by different detectives, likely a method carefully thought out by the predator to more easily avoid capture. Two detectives, Stacey Galbraith and Edna Hendershot, found their way to one another and began collaborating after connecting the similarities between their two cases. Galbraith's husband was an officer at the Westminster Police Department, where Hendershot was working a similar rape case of the woman we referred to as Sarah. When Galbraith went home after being called in on Amber's case, she told her husband the details, and he was struck by her comments about the pink high heels and the large birthmark. So he set her up with Hendershot, and from there they formed a team to find the rapist who was terrorizing women across various cities in Colorado. Galbraith spoke of the relationship she had formed with Hendershot, saying, quote, "My husband immediately said, 'You need to get in contact with our records department. We have had two in the recent past that it matches the MO for.' It was the day after I received the Westminster police report, before I talked to the lead investigator, and I knew those two rapes were connected. After reading their report, it was clear that Westminster believed their case was related to the rape in Aurora, and my eyes were open to the fact that there was a 99.9% chance that this was a serial thing, not just a random attack. The work that we communicated, we got along, we met all the time, we talked, we texted, we emailed, we were always bouncing things off of each other. It was truly a stranger attack, which created a very uneasy feeling. You didn't know where to start or where he was picking out his targets," end quote.
I would love to know the statistic of like when it is like a stranger breaking into your home
Mm-hmm.
to sexually assault you, how often is that a one-off?
Right.
That like doesn't sound like it would. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like it sounds like that would be serial. Like
Right.
who is going through like breaking it? I don't know. Unless you're
No,
like
I
a
agree.
stalker to that person and like you're just like obsessed with that person,
Yeah.
you know.
A tip came in for a student called Scott in the Netflix series at Colorado School of Mines who fit the suspect description. Police took a look at his Facebook page and saw a photo in which there was a large mark on his calf.
Oh.
They called Amber in to take a look, and she said it was possibly him, but the mark seemed lower than she remembered. However, the photo had poor lighting and was angled strangely, so she couldn't be sure. Galbraith obtained a search warrant to put a tracking device on his vehicle.
If you have a distinguishing mark, you were not meant to commit crimes.
No.
Or wear long socks all the time.
Yeah.
Cover it up.
The tracker did not turn up any suspicious activity, and Scott was completely cooperative in an interview with Detective Galbraith. He allowed her to take photos of his face and the mark on his leg, which turned out to be a blue flame tattoo. Galbraith also looked into his cell phone records, which showed that Scott's cell phone was in Vail, Colorado at the time of Amber's rape and in Golden, Colorado at the time of the Lakewood and Westminster rapes. Scott claimed that when his GPS coordinates showed him in Vail, he was skiing. He was able to prove this with a knee injury that later required him to get surgery. He willingly provided DNA, which was submitted to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for comparison, and later excluded Scott as a match. The tracking device was removed from his car, and he was free to go. Each agency submitted their cases to the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program's National Database for Data Analysis. VICAP would be comparing the evidence in these cases to a string of 13 serial sexual assault cases on college students in Kansas from 2000 to 2008 that had also yet to be solved. Detectives matched shoe prints and glove patterns found at each scene and partially matched a small amount of skin cells from a swab from Amber's face, a teddy bear found at Doris's home, and a kitchen timer from Sarah's house.
Nice.
Photos of the shoe prints were submitted to www.crimeshoe.com.
Oh, nice.
And were matched to a specific pair of shoes. Due to the amount of skin cells found at each scene, detectives were unable to test the DNA against CODIS, but were able to do a different type of test that can identify a paternal family line, but not a specific individual. The skin cells found at both the case Galbraith was investigating and the one Hendershot was investigating definitely belonged to the same bloodline, and based on the similarities in MO, they were certain they were looking for the same perpetrator.
Yeah, it's not a father and son.
Yeah,
folks.
we didn't. Also, we already knew that.
Yeah.
Galbraith later told People magazine, quote, "He was aware that jurisdictions don't have the means to communicate with each other. He was counting on us not being able to communicate or connect the dots," end quote. Which is horrifying. That's scary.
Especially in like 2010. I'm like, what is this, the fucking 70s?
Yeah. When looking deeper into Amber's case, detectives found surveillance footage of a white Mazda pickup truck circling the apartment. When they froze the frame and zoomed in on the license plate, it was unreadable, but they felt like it was a good lead. Within 6 weeks, a vehicle incident report came in of an empty 1993 white Mazda pickup truck parked just half a mile from one of the victims' homes. Detectives immediately took notice. The vehicle came back, registered to Marc Patrick O'Leary. Looking further into O'Leary, police captured his truck on camera in the driveway of his home 2 hours after the August 2010 rape. His description closely matched those provided by the victims, down to an egg-shaped birthmark on his leg, and his truck was later confirmed to be the one seen on video surveillance circling Amber's apartment. Armed with a search warrant, Detective Galbraith entered O'Leary's home and found a treasure trove of evidence, including stolen items from the victims, a pistol, tools reportedly used at the scenes of the rapes, including pink high heels and stockings, and a hard drive that included a folder called Girls, full of over 400 photos of women bound and gagged in various stages of rape, including one of a young woman's stomach with her Washington state ID card laying on top and her name, Marie. Marc O'Leary was born in Colorado in 1978. He claims that when he was 5 years old, bear with me, he went to see Return of the Jedi with his parents. And when he saw Princess Leia in a metal bikini chained to Jabba the Hutt, it sparked a sort of sexual awakening in which he decided then and there he wanted to dominate and enslave women as a 5-year-old.
Wow.
I want Billy's thoughts on that as a Star Wars fan.
I'll get them.
Thank you. He claims that as he grew older, he internalized his desires, knowing they were out of the ordinary. Instead, in high school, he would break into homes as a voyeur. Much more normal.
But like Jabba didn't like give her water and like let her go. Like
Yeah.
I'm like I wanted to dominate them, but also be like a little bit kind. Like I'm like and give them advice on how to lock
Yeah.
their door. Like how weird.
He was always described as withdrawn, unmotivated, or apathetic. But after graduating high school, O'Leary surprised everyone by joining the U.S. Army. He was deployed to South Korea, and in March of 2004, he married a Russian woman he had met near base, hiding his darkest desires from her.
So not
He was
something like that. He
right,
was in the military.
right. You could say that. What?
You could say that.
I could because it's true.
Yeah, can
What?
Can I say it, please?
Weird. He was later restationed to Tacoma, Washington. In 2009, after moving back to Colorado from Washington, he got divorced. He claims this was a time when he was more free and was able to use his military training to begin watching women who lived alone, looking for vulnerable places to break in from, and taking note of any weapons inside their homes. He called these pre-combat inspections and used them to determine who he would and would not target. Yeah. People who knew O'Leary in his adulthood later told police that O'Leary was a part of a secret society. I hated looking this up. This man, he's an incel.
No.
And I had to
well,
look up all of the incel knowledge. Okay.
a
He was part of a
secret society.
that believed that all males in the world could be divided into either alphas or bravos. According to this society, alphas are men that are highly intelligent, assertive, and confident, with grand visions and an often abrasive honesty. You can tell that these are incels because examples included Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Bravos share many of these same characteristics as alphas and can often be mistaken for them. But in their they are followers of their chosen alpha, doing whatever is necessary to help their alpha's vision come into fruition. They can this is like it's like folklore. Like there's so many rules.
I feel like I'm in like a misogynistic fantasy book.
Like there's
I want
so
out.
much information. They can come to assume the role of an alpha male if needed, like if their alpha dies or something, but would be more comfortable as a follower than as a leader. Although they would enjoy the respect shown to them by their new followers.
Okay.
Essentially,
is there anything in there about like an alpha could get laid on his own without having to
no
make it happen? Okay, cool.
Essentially, alphas choose a group of dedicated bravos to help them carry out their vision, and the bravos are force multipliers for their alpha with no true desire to ever usurp them. They just want to serve them. If they have to become the alpha, so be it. But that's not what they want, apparently. In the non-skewed view of alpha males, they are known to take responsibility and accept consequences for their actions as well. If you're a good alpha, that's what you would do. However, in O'Leary's view of the concept, he straight up said that being an alpha is the permission he needed to do whatever he wanted to whichever women he wanted whenever he wanted. He told friends of his that he was, of course, an alpha and, quote, thus was entitled to have sexual intercourse with whomever he wanted.
Does he have bravos? Does he have followers?
Right. Where are your friends?
Nobody wants to follow you.
Who's helping you complete your vision? Isn't that the whole thing we just went over? Where are their arrest warrants? O'Leary's girlfriend at the time, Amy Wanzi, had similar concerns about his character. At the time they met on an online dating site, Amy says, quote, he was pretty chivalrous and protective. He was very charming. He was really fun to talk to. We talked for hours at a time, frequently. There was a lightness to him, even though he had a dark sense of humor, end quote. Later, though, she would claim that O'Leary needed her to be scared of him in order to perform sexually. When she learned of the rape accusations, she said she was shocked. She told 48 Hours, quote, I went and threw up. It was pretty upsetting to me, end quote. Were you that shocked?
Yeah, not to blame this
but like,
girl, but the red flags were there.
Right. After 40 days of intense investigation by a team made up of detectives from several departments, 32-year-old O'Leary was charged in February of 2011, and at the time of his trial, he told the judge, quote, the charges are filed erroneously against someone who is not myself, end quote. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't me. However, he later decided that he wanted to spare his victims from having to participate in a drawn-out trial and pleaded guilty to 28 out of 39 counts of rape, kidnapping, and burglary in Colorado. Judge
Marc
Philip
O'Leary, sour than sweet.
Judge Philip McNulty of the Jeffco DA's office told O'Leary in court, quote, your actions are pure evil. Who?
Sir, were you in on this?
If I don't smack you with a sentence long enough to keep you off of the streets forever, I would be derelict in my duty. End quote.
Good for you.
On December 9th, 2011, Marc O'Leary was sentenced to 327 and a half years in prison, the maximum amount of time for his crimes, and said at his sentencing, quote, I'm standing here because I need to be in prison.
Yeah.
I know that probably more than anyone in this room. I've known it for a while. If someone did this to someone I know or I love, I know exactly how I'd feel. I would want to kill them. I am a sexually violent predator and I'm out of control. I've been out of control for a long time. As gruesome as these details are, words are just inadequate to describe how horrible I acted and how much damage I caused. I can only hope that my sentence today will satisfy them as far as closure is concerned and moving on with their lives, end quote.
I just like to think, I'm stuck on this. I just like to think that alpha males would get off on the idea that a woman wants to fuck them. You know?
Like, you want to be the best, the winner.
Yeah. Not like
the progress of my nails throughout this recording. I had 10 pink nails on when we started. Anyway, O'Leary's victims also spoke at his sentencing with various victim impact statements that all echoed the same message. These women were robbed of their freedom, safety, trust, sense of peace, and belief in the goodness of people. One wrote, quote, "If he were released in society, I would always fear for my life. I would always wonder if he was stalking me or looking for revenge," end quote. Afterwards, Detective Galbraith linked the cases to those that happened in Washington, including Marie's, and O'Leary was sentenced to an additional 68.5 years to be served concurrently. The Jefferson County District Attorney at the time said at the end of the verdict, quote, "This is one of the most extreme cases we've seen. The victims remained strong. The investigation was outstanding, and I think the Golden Police Department and all the other agencies saw pretty quickly that this was a serious offender that needed to get off the streets. Their approach was outstanding. He preyed on his victims. He stalked them. He was meticulous how he stalked them. He took great lengths to ensure he got his prey. What was done to these women is absolutely unconscionable. It is one of the scariest cases to come before this judicial district at the very least. I can't sit here and tell this court, you know what, we should understand how they feel. No one can. No one can." End quote. After O'Leary's confessions and subsequent arrest, the Linwood police who charged Marie with false reporting were investigated both internally and externally. It was discovered that between 2008 and 2012, the Linwood police labeled 21% of their rape cases as unfounded, which is 5 times the national average for similarly sized departments. Marie's case was reviewed by the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, and they found evidence that Marie had been coerced into admitting she had lied, even going as far as dismissing substantial evidence of the crime to instead pursue a case against Marie for minor inconsistencies in her story. No Linwood police officers were disciplined as a result of intimidating Marie to falsely confess. The department admitted that they had majorly failed and victimized Marie twice, stating, quote, "There was a bunch of information that was brought forth that made the investigators reach the wrong conclusion in the case. She went through this incident, this crime, and then to have no one believe on top of that. Now to move forward with a group of investigators who do believe her. Her family can give her the support she needs." End quote. Marie was cleared of her misdemeanor conviction and refunded the $500 she paid for court costs. They're like, good enough. You're welcome.
Yeah.
She sued the Linwood PD and was able to settle out of court for $150,000. Today, she is a married mother of 2 and a long-distance truck driver.
Girl, get it.
The Linwood Police Department has now adopted new training methods for sexual assault investigations, and their new policy claims they must have definitive proof of lying before they can even begin to question a rape report.
New policy, hire women.
Yeah. Come on. Stacey Galbraith, who is referred to by A&E TV as a detective known for her round-the-clock, fast-paced approach to police work, received an Officer of the Year award in 2012 for her work on the O'Leary case, a bank robbery, and a domestic murder case. She worked for a time.
Women.
She worked for a time at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and now works as a criminal investigator for the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. Hendershot, who according to A&E TV had years of experience and a penchant for detail-oriented investigations, was promoted to sergeant for the Westminster Police Department in 2013. She was promoted again in 2017 to patrol commander. In an interview with Oxygen, she said, quote, "I miss working the hard sexual assault cases very much, but now have the opportunity to mentor new officers and impress upon them the right way to do things." End quote.
And promote women.
Galbraith and Hendershot remained friends and work together, not on cases, but at events and conferences where they speak to other law enforcement personnel on how they worked together to catch a monster. They are dedicated to training people to understand that survivors don't respond to sexual assault and trauma in the same way, and there is no right or wrong way to react. A book was written about the crimes of Marc O'Leary, specifically focusing on the false reporting case against Marie and how 2 female detectives caught an interstate serial rapist that several male officers had so quickly dismissed. The book, titled A False Report, A True Story of Rape in America, went on to become a Netflix series called Unbelievable. The authors are T. Christian Miller of ProPublica, a nonprofit organization dedicated to investigative journalism, and Ken Armstrong of the Marshall Project, a nonprofit news agency that works to bring light to inequities within the criminal justice system. They were awarded a Pulitzer Prize for explanatory reporting for their examination and expose of law enforcement's enduring failures in the rape investigations against O'Leary. In their work, Miller and Armstrong point out that studies indicate that only 2% to 10% of rape reports turn out to be false reports.
Not no
Marc O'Leary,
21%.
yeah, what the fuck? Marc O'Leary is continuing to serve his 396-year sentence at the Sterling Correctional Facility in Colorado. His first parole hearing is set for July of 2283. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted or is currently experiencing sexual assault, please contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-4673, or go to online.rainn.org. Ridiculously long jail sentences are my favorite thing.
It's so fun.
They hit so
Yeah.
much harder than life in prison.
Yeah. Or freaking death sentence in California. I just like the PTSD, dude. Like the layered PTSD of like, not only were you raped, but like, first of all, like shortly after the crime, like I would be like, remove everything. He touched my computer. There could be cameras.
Yeah.
There could be cameras in my home. Like he's been in my home. Like I need everything out. I need to move. Like, and then just like the continued trauma of like always feeling like you're being watched. Like, man, go girls.
I know. Like every single woman that I named did something that helped find him.
Yep.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Except Marie's foster mother.
Yeah.
Who said she was not sad enough.
Get out of here.
Girl.
Moo.
Yeah.
It ended happy.
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed researching that case, other than the alphas and bravos part. Just because I had watched the Netflix show like when it first came out, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, I know, like, obviously this is like horrible that these things happened to these women, but like you root, if you, I don't know if you've watched Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so good. But you're like rooting for those 2 cops, detectives, to like, because you know they're gonna do it because they're so smart, and you're like, yes. And so like it's like a very satisfying ending. And then like, even with like the horrible things that happened, like the relief of like, once those 2 women got the pictures and they saw who Marie was, like, oh my god, like she's taken care of, like somebody has her back. Like that's just, like, even though like it shouldn't have happened in the first place, it's like, thank God they found her.
And it's honestly like, not to offer praise to Marc O'Leary, but like, thank God you're such an idiot you used her ID, because like if it had just been a picture of her, they would have had so much trouble like trying to track. I don't know where she's from. I don't know, like, how do you find her? you can see
Right.
her, but like how do you find her? And like that ID being there, they're like, oh, gotta go to Washington. This is her
And
name
I believe she was the only one
in Washington.
with the ID in the picture.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know. But also the in the Netflix series, the cops, one of the cops who doesn't believe Marie, is Psychowitz from Victorious,
Mm.
and it just makes it so much harder to watch.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't believe you. But yeah.
That's probably exactly how it went, though.
Yeah, my next one, also not a murder, also go women, but also boo to some women.
Yeah. My next one involves very few women.
What is your next one? Menendez?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Remember in like 2016 when people were like, the Menendez brothers are kind of hot.
I don't remember that.
It was like when a lot of shows had been coming out about them.
Mm.
And people on like Tumblr
Oh.
were like,
I didn't know anything about them till like last year.
oh. I find them interesting.
Yeah. Our mom and I not on the same page.
No.
Mm-mm. Oh, alrighty.
That's all. Bye.
Bye.